Full Throttle TV presents the Full Throttle Sim Racing Darkmatter Designs Cup Series live from the virtual Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. Sitting between the two valleys of mountain peaks to the south and to the north, showered in sunlight, hosting an early April showdown just outside the city of glitz and glamour of Hollywood. 40 of the finest sim racers will embark on the challenge of getting a crucial victory and punching their potential ticket to the promised land of the FTSR playoffs tonight. I'm joined in the booth tonight by my partner in crime, Chris Speer. Chris, this is one of the oldest virtual surfaces we're going to face all season long. It was paved in 1997, hasn't been touched since, and it may not be touched in this configuration ever again. What can we expect out there on a hot, slick surface that we have here tonight?
Well, certainly on any hot track, you have to worry about tires and the fall off that you have. So you'll definitely be seeing that. But one of the best parts about this track is that it's a multi-groove racetrack, Jared. That means we're going to be able to expect to see cars down low, cars middle, cars high, and cars all the way up against the fence.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. Multi-groove racing is back on iRacing, and it has been exciting. There's those mountains I was talking about. Up to the north, Mount San Antonio, down to the south, Santiago's Peak. Somebody's going to be climbing the mountain here tonight to try to grab a victory and potentially lock themselves in the playoffs. Let's take a look at our race info first. We're going to have 200 miles, 100 laps around this 2-mile circuit, 65-degree air temp, 85 track temp. This track is about 3/4 of a mile up in the air, if you can believe that. We have winds out of the west at 13 miles an hour, going slightly northwest, and it is partly cloudy here tonight. Chris, this is going to be pretty interesting with these kind of track conditions. Not a very hot track out there, even though we are in California in early April. We really have a pretty good racy track here tonight.
We certainly do, but even still, it's not going to matter too much because of how old this pavement is, those tires are going to wear quickly.
That's exactly right. Let's take a look at our championship. Bobby Terrell, still our points leader, 6 points over Terry Cooper Jr. And then Dale Nearad, after last week's win at Bristol Dirt, the only driver to grab multiple wins in the Cup Series so far. He's pretty much punched his ticket to the playoffs. He's up 5 spots into third. Ronnie Royal, Richie Coy, your top 5. Person, McMullen, Griffith, Allen, and Jason Speer, your top 10. Chris, you look at some of these guys outside the top 20, or top 25, I should say, trying to get a win, trying to get themselves locked into the field, let alone a win. You've got Brody Hanna, a past champion, back there. You've got Rachel Hunt, a past winner, back there. You've got Brandon Elder, our Daytona winner, back there. What can these guys do tonight to get themselves in position for the next week and the rest of this season?
Well, the key to being further up in the points is to have a good finish. That's where a lot of these guys are going to need to be focused tonight, particularly on what it's going to take to get that finish. It may be strategy, it may be the setups that they have and they have to work on throughout the entire race. But the biggest thing here is whatever it is, you've got to do something different. If you're at this point in the season and you haven't made your way up there, you got to start figuring out ways to get there quick.
And this schedule does not get any easier. I mean, we've got Martinsville coming up. We've got, Martinsville, Richmond, Talladega, and Kansas, our next 4 races. Darlington, Dover, and Circuit of the Americas after that. And all those tracks are kind of wild cards in a lot of ways. Maybe not so much Kansas, but the rest of those tracks will definitely have the ability to catch some of these drivers out because of their uniqueness. But we look at our race analysis for tonight. We already talked about it. Chris, located out here in Fontana, California, about 40 miles west of Los Angeles. Opened in 1997. It's a 2-mile track. Banking is 11 to 14 degrees. 100 laps, 200 miles, and we actually don't have a previous winner in the race. Dean Doucet was the highest finisher and the best overall statistical driver coming into this race, but he has not won at this track, and he might be the guy to put your money on here tonight, Chris.
Certainly, experience here is definitely key because you know exactly how your car is going to react to the changing conditions of the track. So if Dean's able to pull it through, it may be because of his past experience, but who knows? We could have late race cautions throwing a huge mix into the whole race. You never know. This place is bound for a lot of excitement here tonight.
That's exactly right, Chris. There's practice ending. Jeff Chandler on the top of the board. Bill Benedict, Randy McCanny, McMullen, and Hannah, your top 5. Torgerson, Cooper, Doucet, Elder, and John Held, your top 10 to end practice. Chris, something we always have to talk about at California, Michigan, fuel mileage, and tonight's not going to be any different, as these guys are looking at somewhere between 45 and 55 laps, but to get on the north side of 50, you're going to have to start clutching and saving fuel early in this event.
You certainly will, and that's one thing that you'll see a lot of drivers that are not leading the pack doing, and they'll be able to, because when you're behind someone, just like at any of our super speedways, you actually can get a good draft here at Auto Club Speedway, and you'll see a bunch of guys taking advantage of it, maybe going 3/4 throttle through the corners and still being able to keep up because you got the car in front of you braking the air for you.
Exactly right. We're getting some of our drivers out on the track right now. Brad Patterson, Brian Helm, starting to take their laps. But while that's going on, let's go ahead and get our national anthem out of the way. And that is performed by Alyssa Shipman.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the lands of the free and the home of the brave?
All right, we are back live here at California. We see some of the drivers already put laps down, Chris. Jeff Chandler on the top of that board at a 39 flat. Brandon Elder just a click slower. And then we have Terry Cooper Jr., Casey McMullen, Bill Benedict, Dean Doucet, Bobby Terrell, Brad Patterson, Richie Coy, and Brian Bliss, currently your top 10. Other drivers on the track, Randy McCanny, who's just completed his lap, Stephen Loomis, who is coming around to take his final lap right now.
One thing to note here, Jared, based on our practice times and qualifying times, it looks like in qualifying, everyone has lost about a tenth to their fastest time in practice.
And let's take a look at that weather real quick on your right-hand side of your screen. Track temp has gone down 1 degree, but that wind also has actually gone down a little bit. That is coming out of the southwest now, and that could have a little indication of why these guys are slowing down, as we still have some more drivers out on the track. Bernard Persons completed his lap. Troy Torgerson has just completed his lap. He's in 9th place. Jared Daniels completes his lap. We got Brody Hanna and Rachel Hunt out on the track. Brody Hanna, a past champion here in the Cup Series, outside the top 25 in points, but he does have that champion's provisional to fall back on should he need it here tonight. Donnie Staubach's going 5th quickest. Brody Hanna is going to slide his car up into 8th position. And we still got some other drivers coming out here, Chris. And we got some drivers outside the top 25 that are way back there that could be missing this event tonight.
Absolutely. It looks like we've got 45 drivers in the field tonight, and only 4 of them will make the show.
There we go. And these guys still coming around. Wayne Grossi, he is locked in. Rory Collins looks like he's going to be on the outside. Matt Geringer is on pit road. I think he has one more. He has not taken a lap yet, so he's going to have to get that done if he's going to make the field, because he is outside the top 25 in points. And, yeah, Matt Geringer's still on pit road. Not sure what he's doing there. Randall Ballard coming around. He's trying to make the field tonight. Wayne Grossi is in. And we are almost at the end of qualifying. So Matt Geringer not going to take a lap here and miss the event, it looks like. Still have a few more minutes or seconds here in qualifying. Wayne Grossi just completes his lap. He's the last driver to do so, but it is going to be, let's see here. We're going to have Roy Collins missing the event tonight. I also believe Jeff Bratton is out. Kevin Sargent is out, and I believe that could be our 4 drivers that are missing tonight. We'll take a look here in just a moment when these guys all get through.
It's certainly heartbreaking to see these guys. You know that they've spent a lot of time getting ready for tonight's race, and to be able to go home empty-handed is not something anyone would like.
Yeah, so Kevin Rupert disqualified. Kevin Sargent, John Held out as well tonight. He's been doing a good job making events, but Held, Rupert, Sargent, Bratton, Geringer, and Collins all missing the event. 47 drivers, apologies, showed up tonight. So 7 drivers going home for the shiny Lone Star or shiny California race. We're not in Texas, we're in California here tonight.
Hey now, don't be getting your mixed up to where I am there, Jared.
Alrighty, these guys getting gridded up, and let's take a look at our official grid here tonight. And give us 1 second here as everybody's just now getting on the grid. There we go. Jeff Chandler with RPM Motorsports on the pole. 0.03 of a second better than Brandon Elder, who starts second. Terry Cooper Jr. and Case McMullen. That's a Steve Berry Racing lockout of 3 of the first 4 positions there in row number 2. Donnie Staubitz, Bill Benedict in row number 3. Dean Doucet, Brody Hanna in row 4. Bobby Terrell and Troy Torgerson round out your top 10, Chris.
Brad Patterson and Richie Coy will bring in your 11th and 12th place starters. 13th and 14th will be Brian Bliss. For 13th and 14th will be Jeff Winter. Dale Nearad, last week's winner, will start 16th alongside Brian Helm in 15th. 17th will be Stephen Loomis, and 18th will be Bernard Pearson. 19th will be Randy McKinney, and 20th will be David Hensley, Jared.
Yeah, there's your top 20 looking back in row 11. Jared Daniels, Gary Griffith, teammates there. They got together at Bristol Dirt, but look, they're going to start together. I'm sure they've got that all hashed out. Row number 12, Chad Lang and Wayne Grossi. Row 13, Josh Mayu, who had made a debut a couple weeks ago, has done really well. He's back in row 13 with Randall Ballard. Row 14 will be Tracy Powers and James Torrey. And rounding out your top 30 will be Lane Allen and Paul Sargent. Chris?
Andrew Palicki will start 31st with Rachel Hunt on the outside in 32nd. 33 will be Stephen Vrooman. 34 will be Tony Soler. And looking at back through there, you have then 35th will be Gil Gallick. 36th will be Ronnie Royal. 37th will be Tim Bills. And 38th will be Jason Speer. Kenneth Schultz will bring it 39th. And actually, it looks like that is going to be the rest of our field here, Jared.
Yeah, Kenneth Schultz is 39th. And Wayne Grossi did not make the start of the race. He is in this race. He did qualify in, but he did not grid up. So something going on with the number 7. But the rest of that field is actually going to be Kenneth Schultz. Or sorry, not Kenneth Schultz. Jason Speer, Sher Williford, and Ralph Nolan Jr. at the very tail end of this field. But Wayne Grossi, as we said, did not take the grid. So have to see what's going on with the number 7 machine there.
Absolutely. And maybe it's a hardware issue or something like that. You hate to see it because you know that time is critical, and if you didn't make the grid here, there's already a time penalty associated with that, Jared.
Yeah, exactly. He'll have to start the pit road. Now, these are the pace laps. They won't go against him right now as far as putting him a lap down, but nonetheless, not a good spot to be in to start the race off from the pit road in that number 7 machine after making it in to the race. These guys will be coming around here. Chris, what do you think we're going to get tonight in this race? It's going to be a fuel mileage race. It's going to be a rough surface. Tire wear is going to be a factor. What can we expect out of these 40 FTSR drivers here tonight?
Well, hopefully a little bit more patience than we had last week, Jared. This race is a long, hot race, so hopefully we'll be able to get back to our notorious green flag runs that these guys are well known for.
Exactly right here. And you'll see Jeff Chandler and Brandon Elder leading them down, checking everything, making sure everything looks good on the equipment here. And it's a beautiful day at Virtual Auto Club Speedway. Not a cloud in the sky, which is amazing. This is a 1 p.m. now start time in game. So this is perfect conditions to race it. The virtual fans are up. Barney's got the flag in his hand, and we are about ready to go racing here at the California 200. Pace car makes the left-hand turn to pit road. Chandler and Elder, 2 winners this year, will lead them down to green. And green flag is out at the California 200. Chandler with a good start. He's got Terry Cooper behind him. Brandon Elder trying to hold on the outside as they head down into turn 1 here at Fontana. Side-by-side action, and we complete lap number 1. Jeff Chandler going to be the leader. Terry Cooper Jr. will jump to second. Elder to third. McMullen trying to hold off his teammate Donnie Staubitz for 5th, Chris. Very clean start by these drivers.
Certainly a big change from last week, Jared, as we watch these drivers work their way through these opening laps here cleanly for change.
Side-by-side action deeper in the field right now, but Jeff Chandler starting to open up that gap, but Terry Cooper Jr. trying to chase him down, trying to get a victory there. Also, Brandon Elder has a victory. He's not highlighted in yellow because he's outside the top 25 in points. But Casey Mullen and his teammate Dean Doucet, that's our first battle on the track. The 29 and 71 going head-to-head. Donnie Staubitz in there as well. Bobby Terrell, Troy Torgerson, everybody starting to trying to find a little bit of real estate on this track. We look on a little bit further back, Chris. Wayne Grossi has made his way back out on the track. He is not a lap down, but he is toward the end of that field. And that's got to be a lonely feeling. You miss the grid, and now you have to kind of work your way on a different strategy at this point.
Yeah, you're certainly going to have a lot of ground to make up here, Jared. And with the way that this track actually functions, you can be caught by the lead pack here pretty quickly.
Jeff Chandler coming off turn 2, Wayne Grossi coming into turn 3, so there is a little bit of a gap there. Chris, we look in the middle of this field, looking back at some of our race winners. Jeff Winter battling with Dale Nearad. That is a battle for 13th position on the track. They got Brad Patterson just ahead of him, Brian Helm just behind him. And these guys, 2 race winners this year. And Dale Nearad, a rookie, has 2 wins this year in that 03 Oreo machine. Chris, I don't think we're getting you through on this side. I apologize.
Can you hear me now there, Jared?
We do got you, and we got a wreck. It's Brad Patterson. In a massive incident as more drivers come piling in. And the 28 car is destroyed. Looks like also Paul Sargent involved in there as well. And we'll have to take a look and see what happened to the 28 machine. It looks like he just lost it coming out of the corner. And it looks like actually it's trying to figure out what's going on here, but there might have been an internet issue here. So yeah, it looks like actually Brad Patterson had disappeared on the track and came back on the track, reappeared right in front of Dale Nearad.
That's one thing that the real world drivers don't have to worry about. Once you're on the track, you're kind of on the track. But that's not exactly the case here in iRacing, as we can always have connection issues, which it seems that I was having a little bit of issues myself there, Jared.
And there you go, folks. There's Brad Patterson. We'll have to stop it here. It's not a traditional replay we're getting here because we have to actually kind of find him in the service here so we don't lose him. But Brad Patterson, that's a tough break, Chris. Not a good way to start your season off, and really should have done a little bit better getting out of the way there. But it is what it is for the 28 machine, causing a big accident, unfortunately, there.
Certainly going to leave a lot of drivers a mountain to climb there, Jared. And we hate to see that because you know exactly how big of an issue Arrow will be here at this track tonight.
We apologize, Brad Patterson not coming up on our screen here because of the nature of this incident. So we're going to have to look at Tracy Powers a little bit further back. Brad Patterson comes off the wall. Looks like maybe Loomis involved. Hard impact with Paul Sargent there. Vrooman involved. And several other drivers with some significant damage there. I think that was could have been Ralph Nolan Jr. with some damage. No, he gets through it clean. But a tough break for Brad Patterson, who is no doubt out of the race, and several other drivers could be out too because of that.
Certainly they can be, but one thing that's interesting to see here is that we had a couple of guys that elect to go ahead and pit. Maybe they've already seen something that they need to change with their setups and came in to get those changes under this caution.
We did see a few drivers come in. Let's take a look at our pit strategy here and show you guys what's going on here. All these guys all pitted, or did not pit, but we have to go all the way back. Your top 7 stayed out, Chris, and do you think the 7 laps on your tires, it's not that much, but when you start thinking about the fact that everybody behind you has some fresh rubber, that could be a big thing for these guys.
It's definitely going to end up being a big deal. You'll see it here in the first opening laps here. These guys on the new tires will be a little bit more loose than the guys that have the older tires. But once those tires come in, they're going to be about a 2 to 3 tenths quicker, I would believe, Jared.
This is going to be very interesting for these drivers to see what they can do out front. Now, as we talked about, Dean or Chris, this is a fuel strategy race. 50 laps. You have to make it to 50 laps to make it on one lap. If you don't make it to that point, you are pretty much going to have to do a 2-stopper in this race.
Absolutely, and that's one of the fun things that we're going to get to see here is just exactly how people are going to play the fuel strategy. You don't want to stay out too long because your tires have given up so much time to the guys on new tires, but if you're farther back in the pack, it might be a gamble that you're willing to take and hope that you get a timely caution.
Yeah, so Brad Patterson, Paul Sargent, Brian Helm on pit road with significant damage from that incident. Steven Vrooman got collected up in that. He has pretty good damage. Gary Griffith has a little bit. So does James Torrey. And maybe a couple other drivers. Apologies about the quality of that replay. Like we said, just a little bit difficult to get a replay when the driver has disappeared on the track. Our system just does not pick that up very well here in this race. But right now we're about ready to go back to green. Chandler's going to lead Richie Coy, Rachel Hunt in 3rd, Brian Bliss 4th, Palicki 5th, Nolan 6th, and Wayne Grossi 7th. Those drivers did not pit on this last go-around, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Pace car about to make that left-hand turn to pit road. Pace car in. Flagman with the flag in his hand, and we're about ready to go back to racing. Green flag is back out here at California, and a good start by Jeff Chandler on the inside. Richie Coy just doesn't get going on the outside there.
He certainly does, and it's one of those things about iRacing that's so interesting. The person who's able to start the actual green flag run there can usually get a pretty good, decent start as long as they don't spin their tires trying to get away from the rest of the pack.
Coy tries to do the under on Rachel Hunt. Not going to have it happen now as they fan out 2 and 3 wide behind him. Brandon Elder in the middle of that. And Wayne Grossi is going to pull out of that group and allow that not to be 3 wide as Coy looks underneath. Rachel Hunt going into turn 3 for 2nd place. We jump on board the Stewart's root beer machine right now.
Oh, you just can't get the run off the bottom side there that he wanted to get on Rachel. And Rachel's able to maintain that position as she's actually going side by side with Jeff Chandler here going into the corner.
Rachel Hunt up 30 positions. She stayed out, and based on that wreck, it's probably a good idea to stay out, as that is where the action is further back. But Rachel Hunt trying that high side. She's going to get her nose alongside, but just can't quite get there. Chandler's going to cut her off. She's going to do the undercut down the back straightaway. Just can't quite get that forward underneath, but now she is the 16 looking underneath. Jeff Chandler, she slides up. Oh, contact! Chandler holds on to it.
What an impressive save there by Jeff Chandler, as Rachel barely touched him, and that's one of those things that you see here a lot. It doesn't take a lot to spin a car, but in this case, Jeff was able to save it, keep going, and didn't even lose that many positions, Jared.
Yeah, but what, Chris, you know, we saw smoke out of the right rear of that car. That's got to damage those tires a little bit, especially since he's on older tires. Probably didn't want that to happen as Coy now looks underneath the 16 for the lead. Terry Cooper going to the high side in the 25.
Terry Cooper is doing everything he possibly can to make it happen here tonight. You can see he's going underneath Rachel here going into turn 3.
Right in front, Terry Cooper Jr. last week lost the points lead after a kind of a tough race at Bristol Dirt. Gets the lead here. He's going to get one of those bonus points as they're 3 wide behind him. Doucet, Casey Mullen, and Ralph Nolan Jr. back around 10th place. But Terry Cooper did not lead that lap, Chris. Rachel Hunt still beat her to the line.
She certainly did. That outside group was able to get it going, but I think this lap, Terry Cooper Jr. is easily going to lead it unless he gets challenged from the below. And you know why, Jared? He pitted.
Exactly, and that's going to be huge as Jeff Chandler charging his way back to the front after that contact. Terry Cooper on those fresh tires doesn't get quite the run through the middle of the turn. Chandler's going to cut up in front of him, and Jeff Chandler, the 31, back to the point after that contact with Rachel Hunt. He is back in the lead.
Jared, he had something to prove. He said that he heard that I said Terry Cooper Jr. was going to lead that lap, and he said, no, he's not. That lap's mine.
And Terry Cooper Jr., I believe he did get 1 lap led out of that group, but it was just 1 lap. And we look further back. The battling continuing deeper in the field. Andrew Palicki back here. He is just ahead of Casey Mullen, Troy Torgerson, Dean Doucet, Wayne Grossi in this little group of drivers right now. That's the back half of the top 10 right now. Brandon Elder, Dale Nearad, who the contact was insinuated by Dale Nearad, but again, that wasn't Dale's fault. Brad Patterson just appeared right in front of him. Very lucky not to get damage out of that incident, Dale Nearad was.
While we're looking back through the pack, we actually have side-by-side again for the lead. And honestly, Jared, I can't tell you who led that lap.
Look, Jeff Chandler still out there in the beginning, and he is able to just get such a run on the bottom through the middle of the corner. As you see in our wide shot here, it is 2 by 2 by 3 all the way back, and everybody's on the same straightaway that isn't damaged on the track right now, Chris. Amazing racing right here.
It certainly is. The one thing that we have to watch here is that as we're watching Chandler on that bottom groove, the bottom typically wears your tires out a little bit quicker here, Jared. So it'll be interesting to see if Terry Cooper Jr., who seems to be running the middle of the high line, is able to catch back up to him later on in this run.
These top 3 have increased their gap out, as you see it up on our screen here. That gap is up to 2 seconds over Richie Coy, who has dropped back to 4th. But he is basically looks like he's trying to hold everybody else off, as everybody is right there battling for 5th place. Brian Bliss going around on the outside. Dale Nearad there. Bobby Terrell and Brandon Elder all in this group as well. And we look here, Chris. Brian Bliss getting shoved down the front straightaway by Dale Nearad into the turn. We got 4 wide back here as these guys able to really fan out through the corners.
This definitely doesn't come off as a super speedway, but if you look through this pack, you wouldn't know it here tonight, Jared.
We got 3 wide, Dean Doucet in the middle. He's looking underneath Bobby Terrell. I mean, there's plenty of room out here to go 3, 4, 5 wide, but as these guys are doing it, the front 3 are just scooting away. Oh, 3 wide in the middle. Donnie Staubitz almost clipped with Troy Torgerson, but it didn't happen as there's still 3 wide back in this middle of this pack.
Jared, someone's got to tell these guys we're only on lap 17 here tonight.
Lap 17. of 100, 34 miles into this race. We got Brandon Elder all over the back of Richie Coy, who slides up the track. Donnie Staubitz is there, and then we got Bill Benedict and Wayne Grossi trying to look on the bottom to make it 4 wide. I don't think that's going to work, fellas.
Well, they may not hear you, and they definitely don't care anyway, Jared, as they're going to try to do it no matter what here tonight.
And keep in mind, Richie Coy with those old tires continuing to slip back in that 19 car. You look ahead, Dean Doucet clearing this group. He has got himself up to 4th place. Now he's going to set his sights on the top 3, but he's bringing Dale Nearat and his teammate Brian Bliss with him. Brian Bliss in the 18 looking very stout here tonight, and our point leader Bobby Terrell in this group as well.
One interesting thing to note here, as we have a change for the lead, as Terry Cooper Jr. gets by Chandler, it's, well, never mind, not anymore.
We check back in on the lead here.
Side.
Terry Cooper on the bottom side this time, trying to slide up in front of Jeff Chandler. And right now, he's not quite there, but Jeff Chandler looks like he's just far enough back. And Terry Cooper, if he hasn't led a lap, he will lead that one, as they've left Rachel Hunt behind a little bit.
They certainly have, and it's great to see that these two battling side by side and still are able to pull away from the cars behind them. What an incredible race here, Jared.
This thing fanning out. You can see in our wide shot here, Terry Cooper Jr. and Jeff Chandler, they're battling, and then Rachel Hunt is in the picture, but nobody else is in the picture. But right now we take a look at our time delta, and I want to take this back to 2 positions, and let's look at this as Dean Doucet is coming in a hurry.
He certainly is, and looking at it, you know, his last lap time was pretty impressive compared to Jeff Chandler and Terry Cooper, and it doesn't help that they're battling such hard for that lead side by side, and I believe that they're going to be able to, Dean Doucet and even Rachel Hunt's been able to close back up on these two.
And so Chris, now we have this secondary thing going on here. Terry Cooper Jr., he did pit on their last caution. Jeff Chandler did not. Terry Cooper Jr., I don't think 7 or 8 laps into the race is going to make or break fuel mileage. Are these guys kind of committing to a 2-stop strategy, or can they still make this work on a 1-stopper as hard as they're racing?
As hard as they're racing, there's no way I feel that they're going to be able to make it on 1 stop. But the tires here mean so much. I think that I'd rather make it a 2-stop race anyway, Jared.
Jeff Chandler running the high side, the high, wide, and handsome side. These top 3 in the same group ballpark. Dean Doucet by himself. And then Bobby Terrell has finally cleared that group. And now Casey McMullen and Dale Nearad battling down the back straightaway. And Casey McMullen, you know he wants to win. Hasn't won yet. And only got 1 win all of 2020 at Charlotte. So, you know, he's hungry after leading the points for a couple weeks there. Donnie Staubitz in there. Troy Torges and Brian Bliss, your top 10. But Brody Hanna making his move forward after those pit stops as well. And big traffic back here, Chris. 3 wide. Palicki, McCanny, Hanna, and Bliss all battling hard coming off turn 2. I believe we're still having some technical difficulties with Chris here, but battle continuing to go on here. This is a battle for the back half of the top 10.
One thing interesting to note that Jeff Chandler did stay out that caution like we talked about, but he's not had the same problems as some of the other guys that stayed out with him had. He's not fell back near as much. I mean, his lap times are obviously fast enough to keep him in the lead here, Jared.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Rachel Hunt and Jeff Chandler, they had not pitted. Brian Bliss and Andrew Palicki, they're on the backside of the top 10. They did pit on lap 6. And they are getting ran over as Brody Hanna and Bernard Person trying to go around here, the 23 and the 8 on the bottom. And then we got Jared Daniels squeezing in there in front of Brandon Elder. I didn't think he was going to be able to make it in there, but he made it fit, but it wasn't very close.
It's such impressive to see all these guys running so many different groups here and being competitive back in the middle of the pack there, Jared. It really is almost speechless at how much it makes me to watch all these guys side by side like this.
Well, there you go. And Brody Hanna getting around Brian Bliss, so he's going to put himself up into 10th place as the top guys. Jeff Chandler heading across the line now. He has established himself ahead of Terry Cooper Jr. 25 laps into this race, and don't look now, Dean Doucet has passed Rachel Hunt, so put the 29 into 3rd place as they're getting around some lap traffic. That's James Torrey, who was involved in that last wreck, our only wreck of the night. He is now 1 lap down as that car down on power. Chris, we look, Rachel Hunt, one of those drivers that did not pit on the last one. She looks to be dropping a little bit further back as Bobby Terrell, Donnie Staubitz, Dale Nearad, all are ganging up on her right now.
Yes, looking at the times, she's running not much slower than Terry Cooper Jr. in the 2nd place position, but she's definitely slower than Jeff Chandler and Dean Doucet. Dean, who had the quickest lap, that last lap.
Dean Doucet really making that thing fly to the front as we jump on board the 16 of Rachel Hunt. And you look ahead, Bobby Terrell around her. You look a little bit further back, on board Donnie Staubitz, the modified guy out of the Northeast, doing a pretty good job in 7th place, trying to hold back with Troy Torgerson and Dale Nearad chasing down. Chris, we're getting to that point in the race. We have 1 caution, and it was really kind of a fluke incident with Brad Patterson disappearing there and reappearing on top of a car. Hate to see that happen, but it's a technical issue. And we've had some great racing in this event, but, I mean, with these guys racing as hard as they are, I'm surprised we haven't seen more cautions.
Well, that's one thing that you mentioned earlier, is that this track has a lot of different grooves to it and lanes to it, and we're seeing it here tonight. There's a lot of room to be able to race around people as our points leader is able to make his way up into 3rd, going around Dean Doucet.
And Donnie Staubitz, apologies, is heading into pit road. So I don't know if that's a scheduled stop or if he's had an issue. So we'll jump back on board with Casey McMullen, who is in 5th place. And you see Dean Doucet battling with Bobby Terrell. Bobby Terrell trying to get that car to 3rd place. He's going to clear Dean Doucet going into turn number 1. Doucet trying to power back on the outside. Can't quite do it.
Yeah, it's a little bit early to be pitting there for
Staubitz, yeah.
Sorry about that, Staubitz. And so it's a little bit interesting because he also pitted on lap 6 there, Jared. So I don't know if he's got some damage also, or he started to overheat or anything like that, but it'll be interesting to see what his strategy is. Who knows? He may be planning on a 3-stop strategy.
Yeah, and that could be something to pay attention to here as we look up front. Jeff Chandler in a different zip code, and he is ripping the high line through this track, Chris, and that's something we thought we were going to see. We just didn't know if the leader was going to be the guy to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's a little bit different line than what he was running earlier tonight. Earlier tonight, he was down as close as he could to that white line. As the run has, well, as soon as we say that, he's now on the white line again.
Yeah, it looks like he's running the high side in 1 and 2 and the low side in 3 and 4, letting that car sweep off, get as much momentum off the corner as Terry Cooper Jr. He's got some help. Bobby Terrell looking on the inside. So the 5 car who lost a couple weeks ago at Atlanta Motor Speedway by inches, he is coming to the front, Chris.
He is hungry, and these are your top 2 in points as well. So they're not just battling for position on the track. These are points positions, and these guys know that they need to do whatever they can to finish in front of one another.
Exactly right. Bobby Terrell gained 1 point on Terry Cooper Jr. last week, and that 1 point could come back in the regular season. The top 10 in points do get some playoff bonus points to set themselves up. So every position in the points matters, every spot you can get. As Bobby Terrell now clears Terry Cooper, and he's setting his sights on Jeff Chandler, who still, as we said before, has not pitted, Chris. Very impressive out of the 31.
It certainly is, but he better be hurrying because Bobby Terrell is coming. He's about a 1/10 to 2/10 a lap quicker than our leader right now, and he's going to get there.
And we look at that gap on our chart here. It is come down in the last 10 laps from 2.8 seconds from Jeff Chandler to Bobby Terrell. It's down to 0.8 seconds We'll see what it is when it updates across the line here. Looking out the back of the 31 at the 5 of Bobby Terrell as they come across the line. It updates. It's now down to 0.7 seconds, Chris. Bobby Terrell is coming in that 5 machine.
Well, he's trying to make up all the time that he can right now because he knows pit stops are coming. Pit stops are a huge thing here. You can either make up a lot of time on the people in front of you, or you can lose a lot of track time here very quickly.
And Chris, you know, looking out the back of that 31, you can see everybody run different grooves. Bobby Terrell running like a middle groove in 3 and 4. Dean Doucet right on the white line. Terry Cooper a little bit up. And then you got Troy Torgerson battling. He's running the high side the whole way around the track. Love to see the multi-groove racing here at California.
It's certainly beautiful to see. Whereas last week we had just basically a 2-groove racetrack. We can easily say there's 3 to 4 grooves in the corners here, Jared.
Yeah, last week, Bristol Dirt. I think these guys were all glad to be off the dirt. Back to some normal racing here as Dean Doucet in your background has cleared Terry Cooper Jr. to go to 3rd place. Casey Mullen, the other teammate in that group, starting to move forward. And Jeff Chandler has got company. It's down to 0.3 of a second. The 5-car Bobby Terrell trying to come to the front, and he is there.
Someone is cueing the Jaws theme music right here as Bobby Terrell is closing in a hurry. I don't know that Jeff Chandler is going to be able to hold him back, Jared.
And that's your 6 laps difference in tires. It's taken all the way for about 25 laps for this to make a difference. But you see Bobby Terrell looking there and Jeff Chandler looking out the back there. He's got that 5 Armor All machine lighting up his mirror right now.
He certainly does, and you can tell that he's not actually letting off of it either. You can see he's driving as hard as he possibly can as he almost hit the wall coming out of 2.
And he's barely letting off in that corner, and you see him just kind of drift that car back up. But Bobby Terrell just able to roll it through the middle of the turn much better. And don't look now, Dean Doucet has been able to claw a little bit of time back in the middle part of this run. And he is getting himself back involved here as, again, you can see great racing all over the track right now. But right now we're focused on the battle for the lead as Bobby Terrell inching closer.
About 2 car lengths separate these two as Bobby Terrell is going to look underneath Jeff going into 3 here. Going to pull up alongside him, and it looks like Jeff's going to be able to pull away on that high side, just getting the power out of the corner.
Yeah, it's right in this spot is where the trouble begins to make that pass, especially when there's not a lot of difference. Bobby Terrell really chasing down Jeff Chandler, but now he gets to within 0.3, 0.2, and he just cannot make it stick through that portion. He's going to look in the middle groove. Chandler right up against the wall. It actually shook our camera a little bit there on the outside, and he gets a great run there, but Jeff Chandler just a little bit more stable through the middle.
He certainly is, and actually one of the biggest impacts that these cars can ever feel is air handling of the car. So you got to figure out a way to not run in the exact same line as the guy in front of you. Otherwise, you won't be able to close up that last 0.2 of a second. Now it's down to 0.13 here as they make it to the line. Bobby Terrell's doing everything he can, but it seems like that Jeff's able to at least pull a little bit away in 3 and 4, which is really helping him.
Battling back again. We got a couple guys in the chat here. Josh Hackler out there, Chad Fox. It is going to be awesome. Glad you guys joined in, rooting on the Koi Esports guys as we got a battle again for the lead, door to door. Bobby Terrell looked like he got a little bit better run through the middle there and just cannot quite get there. But this is allowing Dean Doucet in the 29 to just kind of creep a little bit forward.
Yes, every time these guys get side by side like that, Dean Doucet's able to pick up about 1/10 to 2/10 on them when they're going side by side. It's definitely working in his favor as he wants to get as close as he can to these two and maybe put those guys behind him.
Yeah, and you see it in the background. Troy Torgerson has caught Terry Cooper and Casey McMullen. So now there is 6 cars kind of in this group as we jump on board Bobby Terrell, and you look at him, he just cannot get that run off the corner. He gets loose underneath Chandler, and that's where the difference is. Chandler's able to power by on the outside.
certainly as this run is going through, you can see which drivers have actually burned up their tires a little bit more than others. We talked about Terry Cooper Jr., who pitted on lap 6. He, in those first couple of laps, overran his tires, and now it's starting to bite him, Jared.
And we look back as we are imminent on pit stops potentially here. Look a little bit further back, Jeff Winter making his way up to the front. He is in 7th place, Dale Nearad 8th. Brody Hanna holding on to 9th place. He's just got around Jared Daniels for 10th, and Randy McCanny also back here in this battle with Bernard Persson, Bill Benedict, Andrew Palicki, and Tim Bills, who is up 22 spots. The big gainer of the night right now in 15th position, the 77, working on the 96 of Andrew Palicki. Brandon Elder just behind him.
Jason Spears in 17th, Brian Bliss 18th, 19th Ronnie Royal, Sherwood Williford in 20th, 21st is Chad Lang, Steve Loomis 22nd, 23rd is Rachel Hunt, who's fallen all the way back from 2nd on that restart, Jared.
Yeah, we were going through there, and that is crazy to see that Rachel Hunt, who was up in the top 5 for a majority of this run, has dropped all the way back to 23rd. She's got Lane Allen, David Hensley, and then there's also Gary Griffith, who's a lap down in this group, and she's continuing to drop back even further in that 16. The handling has gone for Rachel Hunt.
Another driver that has the same issue as her is Richie Coy in the 27th position as well. Same deal for him. He was up in the top 5 at the beginning of the run and has fell all the way back as well.
Yeah, he has. And while that was going on, Chris, Bobby Terrell has taken the lead away from Jeff Chandler finally. Got a little bit of a slide job move off turn 4, and the 5 car up front on lap number 41. He will officially lead this lap as his second lap led of the night, and Jeff Chandler now has Dean Doucet in his mirror.
Well, as we talk about Dean Doucet, he's only been able to close up a 10th since for the last 5 laps. So even though these guys weren't battling side by side, he hasn't been able to make up the ground that he was about 5-6 laps ago, Jared.
Yeah, that's crucial. And you see Casey Mullen looking on the bottom side there, the 71. Those guys, teammates there at Steve Berry and Blackwater Racing there. Troy Torgerson has gotten around Terry Cooper Jr. as Terry Cooper, our second place in points, man, continued to kind of drop back in this race. Jeff Winter is there as well.
And Bobby Terrell is loving that Terry Cooper Jr. continues to fall back. He wants to get as many spots between him and Terry Cooper Jr. as possible.
Brian Helm.
Part, Jared. He's already up in the lead, so there's nothing left for him to do. Now it's all on Terry Cooper Jr. to keep the battle tight.
Exactly right. And like we said, Chris, this is where we're starting to get to this point where can you make it or can you not make it? Because these guys, like we said, 50 laps. That one caution could push these guys to make it, but it's going to be very close. You got to make at least 50, 51 laps preferably to really be safe on fuel. But it is right now all Bobby Terrell up front as he continues to eke that gap further and further ahead of Jeff Chandler. Chris, we look a little bit further back. Brody Hanna's dropping a little bit of spots here as he's now with Bill Benedict and Tim Bills. Wow, all over the back of the 90 car coming down the front straightaway here. Brody Hanna all kinds of loose on the front straightaway.
And that's just a product of those worn tires there, Jared. As these cars as the tires get worn out, you'll start to see slip and slide a little bit easier through these corners, and that's what's happening to Brody.
Tim Bills is going to go around him on the outside. At the same time, Randy McCanny moves himself up into the top 10. Jared Daniels in 10th. Bernard Persson in 11th. We look a little bit further back. We hadn't got through everybody yet. Richie Coy was the last guy we talked about. He is now getting around Gil Gawk, who's in 27th. Josh Mayu in 28th, trying to hold on to that machine. Tracy Powers in 29th. Ralph Nolan, who also didn't pit on that last pit stop, he is in 30th. And you wonder if some of these guys dropping back, are they saving fuel? That might be the problem right now.
I'd like to say that's the problem, but I can't say that it is. At this point, I think it's just their tires are so worn out. If you've done any kind of sliding in these first 45 laps, then you really hurt your tires, and you're losing speed tremendously because of it.
And especially if you were up front and you're kind of battling to stay up there, dropping back, that can definitely have an influence. Randall Ballard and Tony Solari in the 74. He is the last car on the lead lap. Now, he does have a little bit of damage from that earlier incident and doing a good job. But again, I think that car probably not handling the way he wants it to. Those are our lead lap cars. Gary Griffith in 33rd. He is the first car one lap down. Then we have Wayne Grossi out of the event. Steven Vrooman in the event, but he is behind Wayne Grossi right now. So about 36 drivers still remaining on the race. Jeff Chandler dropping some spots. Dean Doucet and Casey Mullen getting around him for second place.
Now at this point, if you're Jeff Chandler, you're trying to figure out when it is that you're going to come to pit road. You've got the oldest tires out on the guys around you. So you're starting to hurt for those tires. You want them desperately. At this point, you're just trying not to lose any more time on the guys in front of you.
Yeah, and so Chris, you bring up a good point. What do you do in this position? You're starting to lose positions. You got lap car Steven Vrooman going another lap down there on the outside. He was involved in that first incident. But what do you do if you're Jeff Chandler? You led this race. You know you have a fast car. But right now, what's your goal? Is it to just kind of ride this thing out, or do you just try to stay in touch of Bobby Terrell, who's opened up a 2.5-second lead over you?
Honestly, at this point, it's all about track position. You need to be able to save whatever you can. At this point, I'm looking to figure out what lap I'm going to pit. It seems that he's committed to this one-stop strategy, which means he needs to make it to at least around 51, 52 before he makes it in. So we're looking at another 3 to 4 laps before he makes it in. So you're trying to keep that gap between you and Bobby Terrell as similar as possible right now.
Look out the back of Dean Doucet, the Canadian, to Casey McMullen, his teammate, and check back in on our leader. It is Bobby Terrell, and he is all alone, 2.5-second lead. Right now, we are about 2 to 3 laps from pit stops. No takers on the early side, Chris. Everybody's come in pretty much, hasn't come in yet, actually.
Yeah, it's interesting to see these guys figuring out what it is they're going to do. You know that the pit stops are coming. At this point, people are talking to each other, trying to figure out when each other is coming in, so that way you don't create an issue getting onto pit road. And this is where driver mistakes are going to be the biggest impact on this race. If you make a mistake getting to pit road, you can cost yourself a top 10, top 5, or even the win here, Jared.
Exactly right. Pepto Joe Flanagan, one of our Truck Series and Sports Car Series regulars, chiming in as we do have pit stops coming down. It's Jeff Chandler. He's going to be the first taker. So, Joe, your question's answered there. Everybody looks like they're going for a one-stopper because of that one caution. Chandler's joined in by Palicki and Brian Bliss on pit road right now.
I think it's a lap too soon, Jared. At this point, you've got to have another caution to be able to make it to the end.
Rachel Hunt also in. You'll see him down at the bottom in our pit stop screen. The number in the brackets is their pit time. If it's blinking pit, that means they are still on pit road and have not pitted around yet. Bobby Terrell continues to stay out. No changes among our top 10 except for Jeff Chandler coming in. We check back a little bit further. Randy McCanny catching up to Terry Cooper Jr. now in 6th place. Jeff Winter up to 5th. Troy Torgerson in 4th. As we do have a few more takers. Bill Benedict on pit road this time.
So now that you're Bobby Terrell and you've got almost a 3-second lead over second, when do you pit? Do you come in now that you've seen all these other people pit? Do you stay out a couple laps to make sure that you have enough fuel? At this point, I think I'm waiting 1-2 laps maybe, and then I'm hitting pit road.
I agree. I think you have to stay out as long as you possibly can and then pit. You don't want to pit if you have anything left in the tank because you want to be able to take it. Be sure you're going to make it on the end here as Tracy Powers on pit road down the way. A little bit slow stop there, 18.2 seconds. May have had some damage repair as Bobby Terrell continued to stay out. So it is a one-stop race for a majority of these drivers. But like you said, I do have to wonder if Jeff Chandler may have pitted a little bit soon because he might have to make it a little bit of a gamble on fuel. Jared Daniels, Royal, Jason Speer all on pit road now, as well as Sherwood Williford.
These guys saw that it was 52, and they knew at this point they can make it the rest of the way with a little bit of saving, and that's why they're heading down, Jared.
Right now, our top 21 drivers have not pitted. So if right now our calculations are saying if Bobby Terrell pits right now as he's coming around the front straightaway, he would come out in 16 behind David Hensley when everything kind of wraps around. So he is in good spot right now as the gap continuing to increase here. I don't think that 5 car is saving any fuel, but we know that these guys can do 45 laps on fuel. You think he's just trying to make it to 55 so he can be assured he doesn't have to worry about it as Bernard Persson, our champion from last season, heads to pit road.
It actually looks like these guys can do at least 52 laps, as we actually have a Tim Bills who's not pitted yet at all this race.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm seeing he pitted on lap 6, Chris, so he may have had that. Richie Coy is currently our leader as far as drivers that have not pitted yet. He is in 16th position, letting Lane Allen go by. He may be on the fuel-saving strategy, but he has lost some positions because of that, if that is the case. Dale Nearad is in pit road right now.
Now looking at it, Bobby Terrell's got almost a 4-second lead over Casey McMullen. At this point, Jared, I'm coming down this lap. I want to be able to maintain that gap. I've got no one near me. It's an easy on, easy off, as long as you don't speed on pit road.
And that's the key. You don't want to speed on pit road. Randall Ballard down the way. Bobby Terrell slowing up, and the leader is in. That's a very conservative pit stop. Jeff Chandler's going to go around to get his lap back. Right now, there's Casey Mullen and Dean Doucet staying out, but that's a very conservative entrance for our race leader. I know you have a lead, but I think you need to hit it a little bit harder than that.
4 seconds may not have been enough to keep the lead here when this all cycles around. We'll have to keep a close look on it, as Casey McMullen is now your leader.
Casey Mullen, who was the points leader a couple races ago, and these guys all under blanket. McMullen, Doucet, Torgerson, Winter, all within a second half. Randy McCanny a further 2 seconds back. But this is where the battling is, and a lot of positioning could be in this section right in here as Casey Mullen in the 71 calling out. He's coming to pit road, and Troy Torgerson going to follow him in. A lot more aggressive pit stops by these guys compared to Bobby Terrell. Terry Cooper in as well in the background, along with Tim Bills.
Certainly Casey McMullen didn't want to leave anything there to chance as he started to lock it up right at the entry to pit road. Was able to keep it straight and most likely was able to get it slowed down. We'll have to take a look as we watch his stop.
So we see right now, Chris, Bobby Terrell coming out on up pit road. He's going to come out right in front of our race leader, so he's not going to lose a lap. But if you look at our de facto standings, he is 5 seconds behind Jeff Chandler. So a very conservative pit stop might have cost Bobby Terrell the lead, as Dean Doucet, Jeff Winter all coming to pit road right now. Randy McCanny is going to stay out and grab himself a lap lead in the number 6 right now.
Get those bonus points for leading a lap, then I'm sure he'll be right behind these guys.
Chad Lang is going to be the next driver to stay out as Brody Hannes comes in. Richie Coy comes in. Tony Solari, who you can see that right front damage, unfortunately, that he got in that first wreck. He looks to be heading in the number 74. Yes, he is in. So that's going to leave McCanny and Chad Lang as our last man standing in the race as far as pit stops go here on lap 57 at California.
These guys at this point are banking that there'll be a caution soon, so that way they can trap as many guys a lap down as possible. But I don't see it happening here, Jared.
McCanny is in, so he's stretched it out the longest right now, 57 laps. For him, Chad Lang in the 41, he's coming down. So that's going to cycle everything back around to Jeff Chandler once Chad Lang and Randy McCanny have completed their stop. Jeff Chandler, you see him, he's at the top of your screen here, or actually, sorry, at the bottom of your screen, coming off turn 4 right now. McCanny is just now in his pits. So Jeff Chandler takes over the lead again. That gap is 4 seconds, 5 seconds to Bobby Terrell right now.
It seems that the pit strategy worked in Jeff Chandler's strategy in his favor here right now. But one thing we have to be cautious of is that he's going to be the one that has to stretch the fuel the longest on this run.
That's a very good point. And I'll tell you something else. This pits window has really cycled things around for the GT Performance drivers, as Jared Daniels in 3rd position right now with Bill Benedict in 4th. They were able to come in on lap 50 and 51. Now, they could be in that boat of, hey, did we pit too early? We don't know. But they came out when it's all cycled around, ahead of Casey McMullen, Troy Torgerson, and Dean Doucet. So it's going to be interesting to see what these guys can do now that they have that clean track air up in the big front of the foul.
And one of the things we talked about, Jared, was that these guys would be able to make up a lot of time on those fresh tires coming out. So now it'll be the guys around them that'll be a little bit faster than them. As we see that Bobby Terrell's already made up about 3/10 on our leader, Jeff Chandler. But at this point, Jeff Chandler could just be taking it easy so that way he knows he has enough fuel.
Let's take a look at that gap. It is, we're going to have to come back to that because we had that pit stop in there. But right now, Jeff Chandler losing just a little bit of ground, but Bobby Terrell still sticking with him pretty well and trying to keep up with him right here. Case McMullen, Troy Torgerson, Dean Doucet, they're kind of almost drafting together as they're trying to chase down the GT Performance Sim Sport drivers of Bill Benedict and Jared Daniels, and they're doing a good job, very quick through the turn. Casey Mullen's going to catch these guys in another lap or two with fresher tires.
Certainly is, but the biggest issue that they have right now, Jared, they're still losing time to our leader.
Exactly. That's the key thing, as now we are now 60% of the way through this race. It's been quick. We had one caution on lap 8 because of an internet issue with Brad Patterson. That very unfortunate situation. Not much anybody could do there. And Dean Doucet up into the wall, trying to wall ride, and the 29 scrapes the wall through 1 and 2. Going to lose a ton of time. I don't think there's much damage on the 29, but that's not good for Dean Doucet. He's going to have to gather himself back up and get back after it.
Yeah, and at this point now, you know that you're going to see for a couple laps, he's not going to want to go near as high on the wall because he's broke his concentration. Now you're a little bit nervous to get up there, so it'll be interesting to see if he's able to make up any time on the guys in front of him now that he's done that.
Now Casey McMullen and Troy Torgerson have caught Bill Benedict, so Bill Benedict going to get swooped in. But the GT Performance Sim Sport guys, Torgerson, Benedict, and Daniels running right now 3rd, 5th, and 6th on the track. Good job for those guys here tonight as they continue to work those cars forward. But just those older tires, 5-lap older tires than these other ones, and you can tell how much that really affects how long these guys can go on speed.
It certainly does, and actually, you know, now that we've been looking back through the pack here, Bobby Terrell has not actually been able to make up a lot of ground on Jeff Chandler. So at this point, I don't think Jeff is doing any saving, and Terrell just may not have enough to get to him now.
Brian Helm, who was involved in that first incident on pit road there, 35th position right now for Brian Helm, just out here trying to gain some points, keep himself in the top 25 as best as he can in overall points, but tough night for the 26. But Chris, you brought up a great point. Bobby Terrell isn't really making big gains on Jeff Chandler right now.
Well, I said that, and then that lap, he made almost 3/10 on our leader. So I apparently just needed to give him a little confidence boost without him actually hearing.
There you go. Bobby Terrell down to 4.3 seconds. The battle right now on the track is for basically 3rd position. Bill Benedict has conceded 4th to Case McMullen, Torgerson, and Doucet, so he continues to kind of drop back. Jared Daniels, the next guy up. And if you can believe it, Chris, Jared Daniels led the points for the first 3 weeks, and then he missed a race because of qualifying because he wasn't locked in the top from last year, and ended up missing a race. He's dropped back in the points. He's still in the top 25 overall. But Jared Daniels definitely has some speed in that 21 as he's trying to work himself into a better points-paying position in that number 21 car. But he's got some very fast horses coming behind him. I think we might have lost Chris again there. Chris, if you got us, let us know.
Sorry about that. I was actually listening in. We had a couple drivers that actually got into a little bit of a scuff. Terry Cooper Jr. may have actually made contact with Royal.
Oh, okay. So let's see if we can see if we had any incidents on our replay screen here. Thanks for the update here. See if we can figure out if anything has happened here. As you ride on board Terry Cooper Jr. It doesn't look like he has any damage on that 25. But Randy McCanny starting to make his way forward. He's got the freshest tires of the entire field right now. And the question Chris, is can he make something happen in that number 6 car with those fresh tires?
Well, looking at lap times, he's about 4/10. No, he's roughly about a tenth, 2/10 quicker than our leader the last couple laps. But at this point, that's a lot of ground to make up in less than 30 laps, 34 laps. Sorry.
Yeah, we got a replay. Terry Cooper Jr. going underneath Ronnie Royal. Looks good through 3 and 4. Looks to be cleared. And I don't see any incident there between the 25 and the 24. Doesn't mean there isn't, as these guys continue to work back through turn number 1. They got Palicki back here, Bernard Person back here. And yeah, not seeing anything too much egregious here, but it could have been somewhere else on the track as we go back to live action. Look back here. We got McCanny in 10th. He is caught up to Dale Nearat and Jeff Winter. That is a battle for 6th and 7th, or 7th and 8th, right in front of him. Jeff Winter tight off the turn. Dale Nearat is all over the bumper, and McCanny sneaking up behind him. He's just got around Terry Cooper. This is a pretty good battle. At the same time as this going on, Jared Daniels has conceded 3rd place to Dean Doucet, Casey Mullen, and Troy Torgerson.
Yeah, these guys are definitely putting on a nice little show here for this position. We have last week's winner, Dale Nearat, coming off of a beautiful finish, very tight finish at Bristol, and showing that he still can do a pretty good job on the pavement here as well.
Yeah, he is. He's going to concede 8th place to Jeff Winter and Randy McCanny. Terry Cooper Jr. trying to look underneath them. That's a battle for 10th back there. Dean Doucet, we saw him scrape the wall earlier. Didn't hurt the 29 machine because he's been able to make that car stick and has actually got himself up to 3rd position and is now trying to chase down Bobby Terrell, but he's a 4 seconds back, 31 laps to go. It's going to be a tight finish. Bobby Terrell continuing to gain on Jeff Chandler. 3 seconds now, the gap.
Yep, the gap between 1, 2, and 3 is about the same. 1st to 2nd, 3 seconds. 2nd to 3rd, 3 seconds. And then 4th is right there on Dean Doucet's bumper.
Beautiful racing out on the track. Let's go through the field after 10th place here. Daryl Nearat just getting past. He is in 11th place. Ronnie Royal dropping to 12th place back there, just ahead of last season's champion Bernard Person. Tim Bills in 14th place, up 23 positions. He's our 2nd best gainer of the night right now. Andrew Palicki in the 96 having a great night in 15th as he's battling with Sherwood Williford, our big gainer of the night, up 25 positions, Chris.
Finishing out our top 20, it looks like we got Jason Speer in 17th. 18th is Brody Hanna and Braden Elder 19th, and Brian Bliss finally rounding out your top 20.
Brian Bliss, solid night here tonight as he gets around Vrooman, who is a lap down with damage there. Behind them, Richie Coy in 21st with Chad Lang. Now, Richie Coy and Chad Lang pitted pretty much at the same time, so these guys have some fresher tires. They have been moving forward. It'll be interesting to see if they have enough laps to get a good finish out tonight. Behind those guys, David Hensley, Randall Ballard, and Rachel Hunt, Chris, all the way back in 25th position.
Yeah, rough night for her. She looked strong at the beginning of that long stretch that we had, where she started, ended up in 2nd for most of that stretch. It seems like her handling just seems to be going away.
Looking back behind her, Lane Allen in 26 just hasn't been able to go forward. Ralph Nolan, who started shotgun on the field, he is 27th. Mayu 28th, Loomis 29th, Tracy Powers in 30th, and Tony Solari is in 31st. He is, looks like our first car 1 lap down as the leaders just got around him. Gil Gock in 32nd, 1 lap down. Gary Griffith in 33rd. He's on pit road getting service done. Vrooman in 34th. Brian Helm in 35th. No front end on that machine for the 26th. Paul Sargent is out, as well as Wayne Grossi, Donnie Staubitz, James Torrey, and Brad Patterson. So 35 cars still remaining out here.
And looking at your leader, it seems like Bobby Terrell has caught up another 2nd on him, and just in a couple laps. It's definitely going to be a very close race. At this point, Jeff Chandler is just trying to be consistent and be able to manage the gap back to Bobby Terrell. He can catch him, but will he be able to pass him? We saw that it was definitely an interesting battle that they had earlier, So it'll be something to watch to see if Chandler's able to continue to hold Terrell off.
Hey, you look at the gap here. Chandler coming across the line now. It was 4.3 10 laps ago. It is down now as Bobby Terrell comes across the line now down to 2.7. So it has been about a 1.6 second gain for Bobby Terrell. He lost a little bit of time on that lap, actually about 0.05 of a second. So Bobby Terrell losing a little bit of time here toward the end as he's trying to catch up to Jeff Chandler. Just looks like it might be hitting a barrier right now.
Yeah, he looked like he got a little loose coming out of 2, and at that point he's heated up the tires. He's got to play it nice, pull them back off, and start that charge back up towards the leader.
Got a cloud moving over the track here, and that's always going to help out. Let's take a look at our weather as that's going on. We have a 80-degree track temp, Chris, 65 air. This track's starting to really pick up some grip now as Bobby Terrell jumps that lead back down to 2.5 seconds, Chris. And as you said, he got loose on that last lap. Looks like he's getting it together now as he continues to try to make a move forward.
Yeah, getting about 0.2 on that lap there. At that point, it's going to take him, what, looking at 25 laps to be able to get there? It's going to be cutting it close, Jared.
This is going to be very interesting as far as this strategy goes because these guys have gotten very spread out. Jeff Chandler is our earliest pitter on 49. So we think he's going to be able to make it, but he's got to do the most amount of laps out of anybody in the whole field on fuel. So that's something we have to keep an eye on, something that can't be glossed over because he might run out in the last corner. We just don't know yet. Bobby Terrell continued to make slight gains on Jeff Chandler right now. Dean Doucet by himself in 3rd spot. McMullen trying to hold off Troy Torgerson for 4th, as these 3 drivers have really kind of been battling all night long. But if you look behind them, Jeff Winter and Randy McCanny are continuing to move forward and catch up to Torgerson and McMullen. They could have a fight on their hands, especially since these guys had the freshest tires in the field.
They certainly can, and you know, I doubted them early, but it seems like they've been able to make up the most amount of time on anyone in the field, which has really been impressive from those 2 drivers.
So Jeff Winter, teammates of Jeff Chandler, he is in 6th place. Now that gap between Torgerson and Winter has come down from 3.8 to 2.2. So this is going to be a battle before too long, and he's bringing Randy McCanny with him. So that top 5 position not locked in just yet for Troy Torgerson or Casey McMullen. Maybe not even Dean Doucet the way these guys are moving forward. Who knows where the podium's going to be, but right now, Bobby Terrell trying to fight with Jeff Chandler for the win. But Terrell, he's got run out of time. 24 to go, 2.5 seconds back.
He's running out of time, Jared, and he's also running into the issue of the lap down cars are getting in his way. He's not able to get through them near as well as our leader, Jeff Chandler, and that's actually being a huge advantage to Chandler because Terrell's not able to make up the 0.2 of the lap that he needed to even catch him by the last lap. So he's only made up about 0.2 in the last 3 laps. And if that pace, there's no way he's going to be able to get to him in time. He's going to have to hope that Jeff Chandler makes a mistake or runs out of fuel.
Exactly right. Tracy Powers, who just got put a lap down by Jeff Chandler. You saw Steven Vrooman. He was the one that was right in front of Bobby Terrell. But there is a little bit of clean sailing out in front of these guys as we bring up our track map here. Jeff Chandler coming through the middle of turn 1 and 2. The next driver is about halfway down the back straightaway. So we're going to have a lot of lap traffic still in this race before the end of it. But there is some clean sailing for now once Bobby Terrell clears Tracy Powers.
It's certainly going to be an exciting finish here, Jared. Bobby Terrell is doing everything he possibly can. You can see that he's not trying to overdrive the car too much. He's trying to just be consistent. That's what the biggest key for him right now is. Be consistent. Do whatever it is you can to find speed. If you need to change your line to find a little bit more speed, then do it. At this point, anything will help.
Exactly right. Down to 2.1 seconds, 20 to go. So, Chris, we're looking at, what, about a 10th a lap he's going to have to pick up. And through this corner, really rolls it in good. He did pick up a 10th through that corner as Tracy Powers is that might play a little bit of an influence. He actually might catch him in a good spot to get a little draft down the front straightaway here. So that might play off for Bobby Terrell pretty well here.
It certainly will. We talked about it a little bit earlier that this track kind of acts like a super speedway in that regard. And it looks like Bobby Terrell is going to be able to get around in the corner a little bit there. But what happened in that corner? He lost time on our leader.
It just didn't quite clear him soon enough there, but he can see him out in the distance. Looking further back, Dean Doucet, he can't see Bobby Terrell anymore, but that gap is closing down to Jeff Chandler. It's down to 4.9. Casey McMullen kind of by himself. Torgerson now has a mirror full of Jeff Winter and Randy McCanny as these guys continue to make their way forward as the sun is back out here at Auto Club.
Looking back at 9th, 10th, and 11th, they are actually having a really tight battle between those three cars of Daniels, Nearad, and Benedict.
They also got Terry Cooper Jr. in this battle as well. So this is a battle for 8th place, and we got 4 drivers battling for that position. So one of these drivers, unfortunately, not going to get a top 10 out of it. But they're battling hard. Daniels slides up in front of Nearad. Nearad looking to undercut him. That's a battle for 9th place right now. Benedict right there in 11th.
Nearad had fell back out of the top 10 earlier in this run, is now being able to make his way back up into the top 10 in 9th position here now.
So Nearad trying to move back forward. He gets around Jared Daniels. Those guys, Jared Daniels and Bill Benedict, some of our earlier pitters in this race, pitted on 50 and 51 respectively, and they continue to kind of drop back. Ronnie Royal also on that 50 pit strategy as well. So they could have some fuel saving mode in some of those vehicles back through here, but we'll just have to see as the race continues to play out. Looking further back, Ronnie Royal and his teammate Bernard Person for Speer Motorsports back there in 12th and 13th. They pitted very early as well, Chris. They got 10 bills on fresh tires catching up to them. Going to be interesting to see what these guys can do here.
Certainly will. It looks like we mentioned it earlier, Jeff Winter and Randy McCanny were going to be catching up on the 5th place car. Well, now they're just a second back. It was 3 seconds last time we checked in.
Yeah, it is. It's down to less than 1 second now. Troy Torgerson to Jeff Chandler. Randy McCanny there as well. And Troy Torgerson trying to hold on to a top 5 finish. And it might be for all for naught. And Casey Mullen not too far up the road here. And we'll just have to see how this lap traffic continues to play a focus here. Jeff Chandler looking out the front of that, Chris. There are 5 cars that he's going to have to deal with before the end of this race, and Bobby Terrell is catching him.
He certainly is. He's catching him about a 10th every 4 or 5 laps, which as we've already said, isn't enough. But if this lap traffic will slow down our leader just enough, if he can get there, can he pass him?
That's going to be the key. We got Josh Mayhew, Steve Loomis back there as well. Let's see who else we got. Rachel Hunt is back there. Ralph Nolan also back there as well. So some big names toward the back of this field that are battling. These guys in front of him, they are battling for position. They are battling for 26th position. So they're not going to just pull over and let him go because they don't want to lose positions themselves.
Absolutely not. If we get a caution here, these guys don't want to be fighting to be the first car a lap down. They want to stay on the lead lap to begin with. They're not going to move over for our leader with 15 to go, and I wouldn't either. At this point, you're doing everything you can to manage your race, and sorry, Jeff, you're going to have to go around me the hard way.
Exactly, and you can't blame them. Like we said, they are battling for positions. They are battling for points. There's a lot at stake as you have to be in the top 25 in points to not have to qualify your way in or be a past champion. So that puts a lot of pressure on these drivers outside the top 20 in points. But right now, Jeff Chandler continued to lead, but that gap is down to 1.7 that time by between Terrell and Chandler.
If you're Jeff Chandler here, you're starting to try to get your spotter to talk to the spotters of those lap cars or to-be lap cars in front of you, asking them where they're going to want to go, where you can go, what will be the best way for them to get around. That's one thing about iRacing is you can be able to have that communication while you're in car with other drivers, and he's hoping that someone will cut him a break.
Got Nolan, Mayhew, Loomis, and Hunt right there in front of him. You see him on our screen. Bobby Terrell also on our screen just ahead of him, and my goodness, this is going to be the race, I think, Chris. How quickly Jeff Chandler can get through this lap traffic and how quickly Bobby Terrell can follow him through, that's going to be the difference maker. He clears Rachel Hunt fairly easily. 3 more to go.
He cleared Rachel Hunt, but at the same time, he lost time coming out of the corner. He had to take a little bit of a different line there and lost almost 2/10 on Bobby Terrell.
He's running that high side as well. As you see, Rachel Hunt's kind of running the same line as Bobby Terrell is, and that could be a disadvantage for Bobby Terrell, even though he was able to pick up a little bit of time. Dean Doucet also kind of getting himself back involved in this race. It's down to 4.8 seconds for him. I think that's a little bit too much of a gap for him to be able to do anything in this race, but he is still there and still trying to make his way forward. But now Jeff Chandler kind of stalling out behind Ralph Nolan a little bit as Bobby Terrell is going to get around Rachel Hunt.
And at this point, it's down to 1.4 seconds on our between first and second. And at this point, you can see Bobby Terrell doing every single thing he can to close up on our leader. It's now down to 1.2 with 12 laps to go here, Jared.
You see it at the top, 1.2, 1.3-ish seconds as Jeff Chandler's going to go to the high side of Ralph Nolan Jr. So Rachel Hunt no longer the last car, or the first car 1 lap down. That's going to go to Ralph Nolan. And now we got Loomis and Mayu ahead of him. Can Bobby Terrell get his way through these guys as Nolan kind of just let Jeff Chandler go? He just conceded that spot knowing he wasn't going to be able to battle and get with Loomis and Mayu there.
He certainly did, and that was a big help for Jeff Chandler as he was able to not lose any time right there going around that lap car, but it didn't work the same way for Bobby Terrell.
Bobby Terrell hasn't quite caught Jeff Chandler or Ralph Nolan, but that gap still continuing to come down, 1.2 seconds.
It seems to be fluctuating between 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 with 10 laps to go. That needs to be down to 0.4, 0.5 at this point, Jared. I don't think he's going to get to him.
Clears Ralph Nolan fairly easily, so that's a huge help as it looked like Ralph Nolan was able to let him go. And now it's down to 0.9 seconds. Jeff Chandler getting held up just a little bit by Loomis and Mayu just ahead of him. And I wouldn't say held up, but having a little bit harder time trying to come through. And now Bobby Terrell is definitely in the mirror of Jeff Chandler, 0.6 of a second this time.
Every time I doubt Bobby Terrell, it seems like he gets a little bit of help as he is now within 0.6 of our leader.
And I think the problem right now, Chris, is that Loomis and Mayu are running the same line as Jeff Chandler. And whereas Bobby Terrell has kind of been running that low line this race and has had to deal with some drivers down there, Jeff Chandler hasn't really had to deal with anybody running the high side. And that's really accordion things up. As you see, Dean Doucet is down to under 4 seconds behind our leader. So now Bobby Terrell going to look underneath through this corner. So Bobby Terrell is there, Chris.
He's there, and he's in the draft of Jeff Chandler and pulling up to his bumper. At this point, it's now about managing how you can get around. Can you use the lap car as a pick? That's what we're going to try to see Terrell do here in these last couple of laps.
Chandler goes to the low side. Probably doesn't want to do that, but he's going to get clear of Steve Loomis. So Loomis now a lap down, and we're looking out the back of that 31 car. Bobby Terrell just peeking the nose out there just a little bit. And he's going to dive down on the inside. Chandler back to the high side.
He's been able to make up a lot of time in the entry and middle of the corner, but he loses it coming off the exit there as they actually are side by side. At the line is going to be close. I think it's going to be Jeff Chandler.
Jeff Chandler will continue to lead. Terrell slides back in. Mayu, the last car on the lead lap, just ahead of these guys. He's running the high side, forcing Jeff Chandler to adjust to the low side. And like we said, we don't know if his car handles good down there. Bobby Terrell, a little bit sliding out there, trying to get a run off. 7 to go here down the back straightaway.
Couldn't clear the lap car, the 51, coming out of the corner there. That actually hurt him a lot of time there, but it also hurt the number 5 car as well, as he was not able to close up, even though Jeff was held up. The air off of these cars is a big impact, and you could see it really hinder both of our top 2 right there.
And They are both able to clear Josh Mayu. Now, they have about 6 seconds before they come up on Randall Ballard. I don't believe he is going to be a factor in this race, as Bobby Terrell is going to look to the high side here. Jeff Chandler continuing to hold the middle.
At this
Good
point,
run.
you're trying to go anywhere that the other car is not. As Bobby Terrell pulls even going down the backstretch.
And a big run, Chris, coming off turn 2. Terrell has a nose in front. Coming into turn 3, Chandler's going to have to battle back. He doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it. Bobby Terrell to the point.
And dominantly so at this point. He's already got almost 0.3 of a second over Jeff Chandler there. Those lap cars really held up Jeff Chandler, and Bobby Terrell was able to make up the time and pass him.
Well, Chris, and maybe the secondary thing is, I'm not sure if he got held up or if he was just trying to get some draft there, trying to save a little bit of fuel, because remember, he came in on lap 49.
He certainly did, Jared, and that's one thing that at this point I got so caught up into the racing that I completely forgot about. So we know that he's got a little bit older tires than Terrell, so it'll be interesting to see if he's able to catch back up to him.
Catch back up to him, or if he's going to have to save any kind of fuel at all, because it is very close on these cars to do 50 laps, and we got 4 laps to go at California. Checking back a little bit further back, Dean Doucet pretty much has established himself as 3rd place here in this race. Been quiet night for Dean in 3rd place. His teammate Casey Mullen in 4th. Jeff Winter has cleared Troy Torgerson to go to 5th, and now Torgerson has Randy McCanny all over him. That's our next battle on the track. As McCanny trying to get around Torgerson, he's going to look to the high side, loops back in, trying to get a run down the back straightaway on the 98 in a battle for 6th.
We talked about the later pit stops working out for Winter and McCanny, and it seems like it's doing that right now as Troy Torgerson is doing everything he can to keep Randy McCanny behind him.
3 laps to go. McCanny and Torgerson, that's our battle we're focusing in on right now on the track. We look a little bit further back. Dale Nerad is battling with Bill Benedict. That's a battle for 9th place on the track. And we also have Jared Daniels in this mix, but he's kind of dropped back into the clutches of Ronnie Royal.
Dale Nerad seems to be having an up and down type of night. He was in the top 10 earlier tonight, fell outside of it, worked his way back up, and now it seems like he's falling off again here late with only 3 laps to go. That's not a good sign when you're in 10th spot and the guy behind you is closing in.
Yeah, exactly. Dale Nerad gets drops to 10th from 9th. Bill Benedict up into 9th place, having a good run. Jared Daniels trying to catch back up to Nerad. Ronnie Royal there as well. Tim Bills has gotten around Bernard Person for 13th. Person drops to 14th. Williford to 14th or 15th, and then Jason Speer in 16th, trying to hold off Brody Hanna for that position. Jeff Chandler might be out of fuel, Dean, Chris, and he is. Jeff Chandler is out of fuel.
We talked about needing to save it. He just did not do enough saving here, and now it's really going to hurt him.
Jeff Chandler is out of fuel. Bobby Terrell, he didn't have to work too hard to get that lead as the white flag is out. He could have just waited for Chandler to run out of gas. How unfortunate. Now the battle is going to be between McCanny and Troy Torgerson for 5th position. And McCanny really drafting down the straightaway here. Jeff Winter just ahead of him as well.
Certainly going to do everything he possibly can to pull even on the back straight here. Oh, nope. Seems like he's going to stay behind him and use him as a drafting help. Maybe put him in a position to overdrive the corner here going into the last turn.
And we come off the final turn. Bobby Terrell, nobody around him. Bobby Terrell is going to get the victory, his first of the season after coming heartbreakingly close at Atlanta. Bobby Terrell will win. Dean Doucet will grab 2nd, McMullen 3rd, and it looks like Jeff Winter will grab 4th. Torgerson holds off McCanny for 5th. Terry Cooper Jr. will grab 7th. Bill Benedict 8th. Dale Nerad 9th. And Jared Daniels holds off Ronnie Royal for 10th place here tonight, Chris. What a race that was. Bobby Terrell at the end didn't need to do anything as Jeff Chandler runs out of fuel. He's going to finish 24th tonight.
2nd to 24th and 2 laps.
Unbelievable race this was, and a tough break for Jeff Chandler, who had a very dominant car, just did not save enough fuel at the end as that race went green to finish off this race tonight. We take a look at our final results here tonight. And it was what a race for some of these drivers here in the top 10. We talked about several of these drivers already, Chris.
We certainly have.
Sorry, go ahead.
It was a battle all night long, all over the track. Second through sixth was only separated by just over 2 seconds, Jared. That's how close this race became at the end for those guys.
Yeah, very tough race. And Chris, you alluded to it. 2.2 seconds between Dean Doucet in second and Randy McCanny in sixth. And McCanny loses out to Troy Torgerson by 0.02 of a second for a fifth position. And then we already talked about our top 10. Ronnie Royal will finish 11th. Tim Bills 12th. Bernard Person 13th. Williford 14th. Jason Speer 15th. Brody Hanna 16th. Lang, Elder, Hensley, and Coy round out your top 20. Look further back through here. 21st, Lane Allen. Palicki 22nd. Ballard 23rd. They're the last drivers on the lead lap. Chandler will be credited the first driver 1 lap down. He did not complete the race because of running out of fuel. So tough break for Jeff Chandler. Josh Mayu in 25th. You look a little bit further back, Chris, and you saw that one wreck. One wreck on lap 8 was all it did. Brian Helm caught up in it. Stephen Vrooman, Paul Sargent, Wayne Grossi, James Torrey, Brad Patterson. Tough break for those drivers as they all finished multiple laps down or out of the race tonight. But what a race for the lead and for the win for Bobby Terrell.
It certainly was a fantastic race for him. He just did the right thing at the right time. Even was able to make the pass on Jeff Chandler before Jeff ran out of fuel. So it's definitely, he had the dominant car there at the end. There were a couple guys that were running faster lap times behind him, but it didn't matter. They were so far back, Jared.
Exactly right. We'll have our interviews come up in just a second, but let's take a look real quick at our points situation here. Bobby Terrell increasing the points lead to 12 unofficially over Terry Cooper Jr. Dale Nearad remains third. The top 4 don't change. McMullen up 2 positions into 5th. Richie Coy dropping 2 positions to 7th. Bernard Person stays in 6th. Torgerson 8th. Dean Doucet back in the top 10. And Jason Speer in 10th. Right there, and you look at some of these other drivers finishing out there in the top 20. More importantly, the top 25. That's where everybody wants to be at, is top 25, and some guys coming in. Tim Bills moves inside the top 25 now, whereas Donnie Staubitz moves out of the top 25, and that's going to be huge going into next week's race at Martinsville.
Martinsville is already a tough track at this point. Now you know that you've got to do whatever it takes to be able to qualify to make your way in, especially for those guys outside of the top 25, as you mentioned, Jared. It's a tough track already. Now you've got even more pressure going into that race.
Exactly right. And we'll be back after these commercial breaks. Hear from our top 3 finishers here tonight: Bobby Terrell, Dean Doucet, and Casey McMullen.
This is the sound of the dark shot.
And you will know my name is the Lord.
are back here at California at the Auto Club Speedway, where Bobby Terrell grabs his first victory of the season in dramatic fashion with Jeff Chandler running out of fuel with 1 lap to go. Bobby Terrell grabbing the victory, grabbing the point lead, and extending that point lead over Chris. It's going to be a heck of a season, and now Bobby Terrell doesn't have that pressure of trying to get a win. He's got that off his bucket list now.
The first one's certainly always the hardest, and he's already got that one in the bucket. Had one kind of stolen away from him last week, so it's nice to see him be able to compete this week and be able to get that win.
Exactly right. And Chris, I believe you're down on pit road with our third place finisher, Mr. Casey McMullen.
Casey, it definitely seemed like you had a quiet night from third. That sounds strange to hear, but in all honesty, that's what you wanted and needed for this race. Strategy seemed to help you out a little bit. Take me through your race.
Yeah, it was exciting there. I messed up on the first lap and hit the backstretch wall. It gave me a little bit of damage, but I don't think it hurt me that much. But just used the strategy to pit and get gas, get tires, and just make sure we could make it home on one stop.
And you certainly were able to do it, and you held out a little bit later. It seemed you were able to use that to your advantage and be able to come out a little bit ahead of guys that were behind you, and were able to maintain positions and even charge your way closer to our leaders there at the end. If there'd been a caution, would you have pitted?
Oh yeah, definitely would have pitted. No doubt.
Certainly, I'm sure you were wishing for one there at the end so you could close that gap up between you and Bobby Terrell. It was definitely a hard-fought race. Lots of 3-4 wide racing at times. Is there anyone that you'd like to thank? Sponsors, family, friends, or anyone like that?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my teammates for giving me good setups every week. They do a great job. And my sponsors, Blackwater Products USA, Steve Barry, go check them out. And everybody here at the league, my wife, my kids, and thank God.
Fantastic. Next week we head to Martinsville. Are you looking forward to it? Are you a little nervous? What's going through your mind heading into that weekend?
Just I do my thing there. I kind of try to stay clean and just try to survive to the end. But you never know with Martinsville; it's just a wild card.
It certainly is. It's much along the same lines as super speedways. It may be a short track, but it's definitely a lot of bumping and grinding going along. You won't have to worry about any arrow if you catch the wall there. The only thing you're going to have to worry about is if someone gives you the chrome horn. We'll look forward to watching you there next week, Casey. And Jared, I think you've caught up with our second place finisher, Dean Doucet.
Rocks that.
Yeah, I'm down here on pit road with our second place finisher, Mr. Dean Doucet. Dean, you had a great race going in this event, but it just looked like you might have been just third best here tonight behind Chandler and Bobby Terrell, but you were starting to make some ground up toward the end there.
Third best, we're in second. We were third best, but that's only speed-wise, right? You got to also play the game, and he didn't pit, we did. So second place, man, super happy. Yeah, the car, it's hard to complain with the second place, but it was pretty tough, man. Pretty little too tight, and we struggled with it a bit. But hey, super happy for second.
Yeah, so you qualified back there in 7th place in the beginning of this race. I mean, we had that unfortunate incident, looked like some internet issues with Brad Patterson that created an incident there. But you had the option there to pit. You elected to do so. The top 7 didn't. Did you think maybe that was going to come back to bite those guys and you saw Jeff Chandler run out of fuel? Or did you think that, maybe I should have stayed out there?
I was confident. I mean, I thought it would be a green flag race. I was surprised to see the one caution we did have. And I was pretty confident. I was telling the guys, I'm like, we got to pit. Like, a couple guys didn't want to pit. I'm saying, we got to pit. And so I'm taking tires and gas, everything. So I was happy when they stayed out. I was like, this is great because they're going to have to either conserve a ton of fuel or, they're going to run out or pit.
And then we had that race. It kind of started to develop a little bit here, and you got into a kind of a rhythm. You're racing with Casey Mullen and Troy Torgerson pretty much the entire night, kind of swapping back 3rd through 5th there. Take us through kind of those battles. We saw you get in the wall a little bit and going into turn 1, and didn't look like you hit it too bad. But were you concerned maybe that might have caused a little damage there, or was the car still good after that?
I think it was good. It was a very minor scrape, and I don't think that had any effect other than on my mind. Right, it was a little bit mentally threw me for a loop a bit. But yeah, we were way better in 3 and 4. That was where our car was really hooked up through 3 and 4. And we closed right back up on them, but they're a little better in 1 and 2. So I just decided to wait. Right, just wait them out. Let's give it 10, 15 laps and save a little tire here, and then we'll just see if we can get by them. And it worked out for us.
Well, Dean, congratulations. Like you said, you picked up second place. Jeff Chandler running out of gas with 2 laps to go. We head into Martinsville. Now, you already have that win in the books, so that's always a good thing. But now we start to get into the short track portion of the schedule with Martinsville and then follow that up with Richmond coming up. How are you guys feeling heading in to what is technically our first short tracks of the season since Bristol was actually a dirt race?
Nervous. Very nervous. It's a really tough field. We got a lot of great racers here, and you put 40 cars on the short track. It could be, this possibility of a little mayhem getting out there. So we'll be looking to qualify up front and try and stay out of it. But yeah, it's going to be a blast, man. I love racing it. It's going to be a lot of fun, but there's also, I think, going to be a few tempers flaring, perhaps.
For sure. You move yourself into ninth place in points officially. 74 points back, but you're well ahead of the cut zone for qualifying. That's got to be comforting. 70 points to clear that, so you got some buffer there. When do you start taking any risks, or do you take risks at this point in time with that win in your book and the 70-point advantage on 25th in points?
Every race. Every single race, Jared. I'm looking for wins. I'm looking to stack up some points for the playoffs, and always maintain that 25th. Not only for qualifying, a pretty decent qualifier, so don't worry about that too much. But for the to get in the championship, win or not, you got to be in the top 25.
Right.
So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, we're going to throw caution into the wind. We're going to be going for wins, different strategy calls, and being aggressive out there.
All right, Dean. Well, congratulations on your runner-up tonight. I'm going to turn the floor over to you, bud, and let you thank whoever you'd like to thank.
All right. Well, of course, I want to thank Blackwater Products USA and Steve Barry. These people are just amazing what they've done for us. I can't thank them enough. Big shout out to Lane Allen helping out with the setup this week, doing some work, and just fantastic to work with him. Of course, thank you guys in the booth, Full Throttle Sim Racing as well, and Mr. Brody Hanna.
All right, Chris, that was our runner-up, Mr. Dean Doucet, and I believe you were down on victory lane with a guy that came up one position better than he did at Atlanta to grab his first victory of the year, Bobby Terrell. I believe you're in victory lane with him, Chris.
I certainly am. I may be the only person that's been able to catch Bobby Terrell all night, and I'm down here in victory lane with him. Bobby, an amazing race that you had going for you. No one likes to win a fuel strategy type race, and in the end, you still didn't. You were able to get up and pass Jeff before he had his unfortunate luck there. Take me through your race and how it felt to you.
Uh, well, I mean, there was lots of battles at first, as y'all saw, three wide, two right, two wide, two wide. There was a lot of that. Qualified ninth. I worked my way up to like sixth or seventh, and then, like I said, then we had the caution. I knew we needed to pit, and I don't think Jeff pitted. I'm not sure, but he may have stayed out. But then uh, we went green the whole way, so it worked in my favor. I knew I had a good long run car. Um, I was happy with it. It got a little bit loose the second run, but I was like when after the everything pitted out and we cycled back around and Jeff was out front like 5 seconds, and I was thinking to myself, there's no way that he can make it on fuel. I just didn't think he could. And so I just kind of took my time saving my stuff a little bit and took my time and finally got to him and then, passed him. And I didn't know how much fuel he had left or if he was going to make it or what, but it worked out.
It certainly did there, Bobby. You were able to pull a little bit of points on our second position and points over Terry Cooper Jr.
Oop, Chris, did we lose you there?
Oh, I'm sorry about Hello.
Yeah, we got you back. We got you back.
All right, great. So you were able to pull, Bobby, you were able to pull about 12 points on Terry Cooper Jr. Leading into Martinsville. Are you all worried about going into such a short track?
No, I like Martinsville. I usually run good there if we get a good setup. Uh, man, I hope I run good there. I like the track.
Well, fantastic. I'm going to turn it over to you for this last little bit here. Uh, is there anyone you need to thank? Sponsors, family, friends, anyone like that?
Uh, yes, you guys in the booth for the amazing job that y'all do. Uh, it's just awesome. Uh, Full Throttle Sim Racing, uh, all the admins for everything they do, putting up the servers. Can't thank them enough. And a shout out to my teammates, my team owner, Wayne. Guys, I can't thank him and Gil enough for this time and effort they put into this set. And as everybody knows, I run the VRS sets most of the time. So it was just awesome. I can't thank those guys enough.
Absolutely. Well, Bobby, congratulations on your win here tonight. It was definitely a hard fought victory, and glad to see you be able to bring it home in victory lane tonight.
Oh, thanks a lot, and I shout out to Darkmatter Designs for sponsoring this awesome league, and a shout out to the drivers also. I mean, this is such a highly competitive league. There's so many guys that can win on any day. So, thanks, guys.
All right,
Thank
that was
you.
Bobby Terrell there, grabbing the big victory there, Chris, and what a race it was. We look forward 2 weeks in a row now. We have short tracks back to back, Martinsville and Richmond. We haven't seen short tracks because Bristol was a dirt race this year. What can we expect out of these guys? 40 drivers around Martinsville and Richmond, going to be pretty intense.
It certainly is. I certainly love short tracks, but they are definitely a lot more challenging, especially when you got guys that are a little bit more aggressive getting into the corners than you are. I know I fell a victim to that several times myself, and we'll hope to see that these guys are able to keep their streak with the long green flag runs going next week at Martinsville.
Should be interesting, Chris. Well, we have a lot of action coming up on Full Throttle TV. Back on it on Wednesday night, the Blackwater Products Truck Series from Full Throttle Sim Racing. They'll be on Full Throttle TV Wednesday night. They'll be at Chicagoland Speedway. And Thursday night, we'll have the IndyCar Series from Mid-Ohio, the final road course event of the season, the Elite Sim Racing Association, as their season draws to a close. With a tight points battle. You don't want to miss that. And Chris, I believe you have some stuff coming up on Sunday as well.
I certainly do. One of the leagues that I'm a part of, that I'm the admin of, Fatheads Cup Series, is doing a little mini recruitment series on Sunday nights at the races are around 9:20. The green flag falls. We have a 45-minute practice session before then. We're looking for a couple of drivers that want to come out and join our Cup Series league that races on Wednesdays. And this is a great way to join our Fatheads family of drivers. It's a great group of guys, and looking for a couple guys to add to that so we can certainly continue our competition. Great group. Love running with them. And that's coming from a guy that didn't even make the playoffs there, Jared.
Yeah, exactly right. Check those guys out. That's a friend of ours, Paul Strickland Jr., covering that series over on Verdane TV. But it is going to be awesome, Chris. Best of luck to you in that endeavor, and we will see you guys next week at Martinsville Monday night. Join us there. But for tonight, I'm Jared Carr. For Chris Speer, we will see you guys out on the track.